Good morning to everyone. Today, let us try to understand what's happening in the Bangalore, whether Bangalore is a livable city. So, my title is the talk is like this. I will talk about plastic pollution. Then, of course, climate change. I know that on the first day, the Lokesh has spoken about it. I will touch briefly on that. Then I will talk about Western Ghats. Then I will come to the Bangalore. Then at the end, I will present some of the case studies where we have been where we have taken the science for the benefit of science, the benefit of society. This is the recent publication which gives an idea about the worth of the ecosystem. Normally, people do not know when that happens. There is a security, survival, and peace. For that to happen, we need to maintain the ecosystem integrity. That is where the decision making becomes very important. So now, when you look at the nature, see in the nature, this is a simple food chain. You will see the producer producing the food which is eaten by the herbivore. Next, it is eaten by the carnivore. And finally, whatever is left in the system gets converted into elemental form by bacteria and fungi. Now, when you look at how the nature functions, there is nothing called waste. Now, where do you see waste? You will see waste where waste people are there. Now, I will highlight those group of waste people in our system. The people who depend too much on the plastics. These are the group of the people. Now, the sensible Indians, we use the steel plates or the steel carrier for the food, etc. But for convenience, some of the people use this plastic, etc. That has become a fancy, and you would also see in the airport also too much of plastic being used in the eateries, etc. Now, what is the problem with the plastic? When you look at the plastic, the way it takes millions of years to degrade, okay, and it gets into the other component in ecosystem like animals, etc., and finally it gets back to the humans. The recent studies which are reported in the Nature journal shows that the microplastic in the blood of the humans, these are dangerous things. And the tragedy of our country is even our prime minister has to clean the street which was being littered by the foolish fellows on the earth. Now, why the plastic is dangerous? It has the chemical like bisphenol A, BPA, or the dioxin. These are the chemicals which causes the cancer. Now, as you all know, Bangalore leads as far as cancer is concerned. The Bangalore is number one among the cities across the country and in the globe that we are on the top as far as the cancer is concerned. That's mainly because of we have fallen in love with the plastic without understanding the implication of the plastic. We send food to the children to the school through the plastic, the pouches, etc. And we give the water in the plastic bottle. These are all the path adapted by the people who are for them the convenience is more important than the health of the children. So now when you look at Karnataka, among the states in India, Karnataka is in the fifth place as far as the plastic is concerned. And whatever the plastic waste that is finally getting into our water bodies and in the ocean, and because of this irresponsible behavior, you see the victims are our children. And now with that, let us move to the next topic, climate change. As you all know, changes in climate is happening because of the warming of the earth, global warming, which is because of the emission in the atmosphere, there's some greenhouse gas emission. And when you look at the data, the temperature is increasing consistently. And recently, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that is IPCC, has brought out the report, and it has said that the temperature would increase by another 1.5 degrees Celsius in another 4-5 years, which is going to be dangerous. Now, when you look at the problem of the changes in climate, is the disasters will increase and also the sea level would increase. Now, the other aspect is that if you look at how it affects all of us, that we will lose the immunity, and that is mainly because look at the kind of the diverse organisms that are there on the earth, the plants and animal we are going to lose. For example, coral bleaching. With a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperature, the 70% we will lose. Another 0.5 degrees Celsius, it will go to the 99%. Similarly, if you look at the plants and animals, The endemic, the insects, where we lose 6 with 1.5 degrees Celsius, and it will shoot up to the 18. Similarly, the plants will be the 16, and vertebrate is 8. And these are all the endemic plants and animals. Endemic means that occurs in a particular space, the location. You cannot get it everywhere, and that will have some medicinal properties also. Now, if you look at the implication of the changes in climate, the drought would increase. With 1.5 degrees Celsius, 350 million people are going to be affected, and with another 0.5 degrees Celsius is going to be 410 million people. And also, rise in sea level. With the 1.5 degrees Celsius is about 48 centimeter, and with the another 0.5 degrees Celsius 56 centimeter. The coastal towns like Bangalore, Karwar, Kumta, these are all going to be get submerged, and number of people who are going to be affected is about 46 million with a 1.5 degrees Celsius, or 49 million people. Most of the coastal people, like including Mumbai and Chennai, are going to be affected with the sea level rise. So now, if you look at the other impact, the water stress, we are going to pay the heavy price as far as the water is concerned, and our food productivity, as per the estimate, will decline by 60% by 2100. So now, to summarize what I said so far, the impact of the climate change is an increase in temperature. There is a sea level rise happens, and the glaciers will melt. The frequent flooding and drought would happen, and more importantly, the crop productivity will come down because of the pest and because of the erratic temperature and the rainfall. Now, see, this is the more worrying thing is the health of the people get affected. With the increase in temperature, more and more vector-borne diseases will be there on the earth. The diseases like COVID, the chikungunya, dengue, etc. happened. Okay. Now, with this, let me take you to the next part of my talk, my study region, the Western Ghats. My research is mainly in the Western Ghats and in Bangalore of Karnataka. So, when you look at the Western Ghats, or when you look at our Earth, we have only one Earth. There are a number of species that occur on the Earth. As per our scripture, it's about 8 to 12 million species. And as per the science, we have estimated about 1.3 million species. Now, out of 1.3 million species, we know the biochemical composition and the medicinal properties of about 15% of those species. That means there's a lot more to do. But in the meanwhile, because of the unplanned developmental activity, we are degrading the ecosystem. We are losing these species. See, when you have varieties of plants and animals, you have varieties of food. And because of varieties of food, your body gets the medicinal, because of the varieties of food, and because of that, the medicinal properties of the food, you have the immunity. That's why when you look at the people who are in the Western Ghat districts or Western Ghat villages, they are so healthy because the kind of the food they take compared to the city dwellers like Bangalore, Mumbai, etc. Now, let us try to understand which part of the globe has the highest number of species. As you move latitudinally, you will see at 8 to 14 degree latitude, you have the highest number of plants and animal species. This corresponds to the Western Ghat part, the Kerala and Karnataka and Tamil Nadu part of the Western Ghats. That means some of us have inherited this rich diversity of plants and animals, and it is our responsibility to pass on the resources to our next generation so that they get the diverse food, they get the medicine, they get the immunity in the system. So now, to do that science, we need to know where all the forests are there. That is where the remote sensing data help. That remote sensing data, the pictures of the Earth taken from the satellite platform. We launched the satellites way back in 70s, and every 21 or 30 days interval, we get the picture of the Earth. We use this picture of the Earth to analyze what changes are happening on the land. For example, if you look at the Western Ghats, we have analyzed from 1985 to 2018. You see that the green, which is a forest area, is declining with the time. And also, not only the forests are declining, forests are also getting fragmented. We use the remote sensing data, that is the big data, along with the modern techniques like artificial intelligence and machine learning to analyze this. See, earlier to do the land cover analysis of one district, it used to take 6 to 8 months. But because of the AI and ML, my student has done it in a 6 months time. So now we also try to look at what is the likely scenario in 2031. You see that there will be a further degradation of the forest will happen. We will have only 10% as the forest under evergreen category in the Western Ghat, and total forest cover in the Western Ghat is about 18 to 19% by 2031. You might ask, what is the implication of that? See, if you look at the climatic parameters, for example, temperature would increase in the region. Kerala will become warmer by 1.5 degrees Celsius. When it becomes warmer, you will see that more and more vector-borne diseases. See, that's where when the COVID happened the last month, you see that the more the cases are reported from Kerala. And so is the case of chikungunya and dengue. And if you look at the rainfall pattern, you see that rainfall, Kerala, which was receiving higher rainfall, will start receiving the lower rainfall. And more importantly, the rainfall, the pattern will change. The rainfall would be high intensity rainfall, which will lead to when you have high intensity rainfall, and with the degradation of the forest, this one, you see that the trees which used to hold the soil because of the binding property will not be there. Now, with the high intensity rainfall, since there are no vegetation in the undulating terrain, there will be the landslides and mudslides in the region. That's what the last year we witnessed in the Wayanad of the Kerala. Adjacent to the Kodagu, you see the Wayanad district face the severe crisis because of the high intensity rainfall. So it happened even in the places like the Kodagu about 2 years back, and Dakshina Kannada last week. You see that in a family, 3 people were killed because of the high intensity rainfall with the landslides and mudslides. Okay, so now, to understand the worth of the ecosystem, we have done the valuation of the ecosystem. We have quantified what are the provisioning services, the tangible benefit provided by the ecosystem. We have also looked at the regulating and cultural services. The combination of this gives the total ecosystem supply value, which also help in developing the green GDP for a country. That means, see, when you have GDP, gross domestic product, normally the ecosystem degradation cost is not accounted in GDP. Though you claim that higher the GDP in a country, you will see whatever you have degraded, because of that we have lost the renewability of the ecosystem. That has not been accounted. That's why the GDP, which has been used as the economic metric in a country, is the false one. We need to revise that with a green GDP. So now let us try to understand what is the services provided by an ecosystem. One of the services provided by an ecosystem is the carbon service. We all breathe, we give out a carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide emitted by us and by the industries and other activities are taken by the vegetation during photosynthesis. We did a quantification of the carbon in the vegetation, above ground biomass, below ground biomass, and in the soil carbon, and it gives the total carbon. And also we have quantified every year how much carbon get accumulated. Our estimate shows that the Western Ghats holds about 1.23 million gigagram in the vegetation and soil, and every year about 37,000 gigagram of carbon is emitted, which is equivalent to the emission that happens in cities like Trivandrum, Cochin, Mangalore, Bangalore, etc. Now, if you assign the economic value for the service what has been provided by this ecosystem, it amounts to the 100 billion rupees or a $1.4 billion. You might ask, what is the use of this number? See, when I represent a country, when I go in the international delegation, so when we put forward the argument saying that these are the carbon that is stored in the forest or the carbon emitted by them, because our country was not industrialized at the time, they need to pay this for these services provided by an ecosystem. That's how we get the money, and that is what is being used for the conservation in the country. Now, the next service provided by the ecosystem is the water. We all require water. Now we will, and Bangalore faced the severe water crisis about a year back, and let us try to understand the causal factor of this one. Now this gives a picture in 1991 when I was a student, and today the same region, same time, during the monsoon there is no water in this region. So now, how it happens, let us try to understand that. I will take you to the Sharavati River Basin. We constructed a dam in Sharavati River Basin. With the construction of the dam, you see that the land cover has changed. The one portion which has the good vegetation cover, while the other portion has the poor vegetation cover. You can see a dense vegetation on one side, the other side is a degraded vegetation. Now, if you want to understand whether there is any implication on the rainfall because of the changes in land cover, let us look at the rainfall data of 100 years. Divide that rainfall data into two time periods, 1901 to 1964 and 1964 to today. When you analyze that, you see that before constructing the dam, this entire region was receiving the rainfall of 3,000 to 4,500 millimeter. But after constructing the dam, you will see that one portion continue to receive the rainfall of 3000 to 4500, while the other portion receive the rainfall of 1700 to 1900 millimeter. That means almost 50% rainfall, the decline has happened in the region because of changes in the land cover, or because of the decline in the forest cover. So which highlights that if there are forests, we will get the water in the water bodies. You know, this the west flowing rivers and east flowing river that originate in the Western Ghat are the one which provides the water security to the peninsular India. Because of the water security, we have the food security in the region. Now let us try to understand this, how long the water we will get when it rains. We chose the various the catchment. You know, the catchment dominated by native species forest. You all know the catchment means watershed or the Jalanayana Pradesha. You know, when the catchment is dominated by native species forest, similarly another catchment dominated by monoculture, another by the urban area. Like that, 32 locations were chosen, and we monitored for the 36 months. You know, every month we monitor the hydrological this one. We put the sensors in the underlying layer, which gives an idea about how much water get infiltrated when it rains. And during the monsoon of 4 months, wherever the forests are there, because the forests are diverse, the roots are diverse. Because the roots are diverse, the soil microorganisms are abundant and diverse. Because of that, soil become permeable or porous. When soil become porous or permeable, when it rains, the water get infiltrated, which gets the accumulated in the groundwater zone, then it fills in the water zone. Then during the monsoon, the rain water get about 60 to 70% of the rainfall get infiltrated and get stored in this region. After monsoon, you will see the water flows laterally to the water body for 4 months from the water zone, another 4 months from the saturated zone. That's how you will have 12 months water in the water body, provided you have done the enough water in charge, the recharge in the region. Now, when you look at this region, this region, to summarize, this is a region where 12 months water is available. Here is 8 months. Here it is a 6 months. This is 4 months. When you overlay the vegetation cover, you will see wherever the vegetation of native species are there, you have 12 months water. Wherever the forest is fragmented, depending on the scale of fragmentation, you have 8 to 6 months of water. Wherever the forest is declined less than 30%, you have water only during the monsoon. Now, when you look at this region, where the forests are there, about 60 to 70% of the rainfall get infiltrated, while in this region only about 30 to 32%, 28 to 32% get infiltrated. This is a degraded patch. Now, when you look at the demand of the society for agriculture, horticulture and drinking, etc., you will see where forests are there is enough water to meet the demand, and there's a surplus water. Wherever forests have been removed in the name of development, people have lost the water, and there's a scarcity of the water. Now, to summarize what I said so far, and also link it with the livelihood of the people, we did the kind of benefit people get because of the forest, etc. In this region where 12 months of water is there, people can grow multiple crop or a cash crop. Whereas in this region where water is available for 4 to 6 months, they can grow only one crop. When you look at the earning of the people in this region where water is available for 12 months, the earning is about 1,54,000 rupees per acre per year. Whereas in this region is about 32,000 rupees per acre per year. Another important thing what we noticed in this region is that the productivity or the yield of the crop. For example, paddy, if the yield is about the 14 to 18 quintal per acre, in this region it's about 6 to 8 quintal per acre. Now, when you look at what is the reason for this higher yield in this region, it's mainly because of the pollinator. There are a higher amount of the diverse and abundant pollinators in this region. Because of that, pollination become efficient, and with that the yield of the crop goes up to the 14 to 18 quintal per acre compared to 6 to 8 quintal per acre. Now, you all know that Government of India want to double the income of the farmers. Now, you can see that income of the farmer can be doubled by maintaining the integrity of the ecosystem, so that people get the water and they get the pollinator. With that, the income also goes up by threefold, and also productivity goes by twofold. So that is what we should replicate throughout the country. Now, let us try to understand what are the other benefits in the region. See, look at the diversity of animals. These dots indicate the various animals. They all are there where water is available for months. In the region where water is not there for the for throughout the year. All the 4 seasons, when the water is available, the animals are there in that region. While in this region where water is scarce, only 4 months it is available, only the two-legged animals are there. Now let us try to understand other benefits of this biodiversity. We found two new species of the fish. We named it as Scystura nagodiensis and Scystura sharawatiensis. You see that they are useful from the medicinal point of view. They are found in one of the streams in the Sharavati. They have the medicinal property. They retain the medicinal property only when they are when we allow them to grow in those streams. We tried to culture it in our labs, and we found that the fish didn't have any medicinal properties like Bangaloreans when we cultured it in Bangalore lab, which means for the animal to have its medicinal property, it has to be cultured in its habitat so that it gets the additional benefit from the nature. For the fish to be there in the stream, the water should be there for 12 months. For the water to be there in the water body, the surrounding forest plays an important role, as we understood from the previous slides, which bring the linkage between the terrestrial biodiversity with the aquatic biodiversity. Now let us try to understand another case study about the frog. If there are no water on the earth, what will happen? See, if there are no water on the earth, none of us will survive. But there are some organisms, they might survive. For example, the frogs. We all know the frogs are known as amphibians because they have two stages in their life cycle. First stage is a juvenile stage or the tadpole stage. The second stage is the adult stage, which is on the land, while the first stage, juvenile stage, is in the water. Now, if there is no water on the earth, then what will happen to the frog? The tadpole cannot survive. But in one of the drier stream, we saw the frogs, the reproduction was happening. We are curious to know. Then we noticed that after the fertilization of the egg, the frogs have learned how to bypass the tadpole stage. They learned how to bypass the tadpole stage. That's how they got adapted to a situation of the water scarcity. And we saw that on 14th day or 15th day, the young frogs were emerging out of the fertilized egg. And we brought that fertilized egg to the Bangalore lab. And when we monitored for 15 days, we saw that on 14th or 15th day, younger ones were emerging out of the fertilized egg, which shows that the animals have learned how to get adapted to a situation, while the humans will not survive without water. That's where we have to be cautious, and we need to maintain the availability of water on the earth. Now, we understood the importance of the Western Ghats. That's where we developed the decision support system, integrating the variables like the forest cover, etc. So, and this gives the forest cover in the region. This gives the equivalent weight what we have assigned, which are used for developing the decision support system. That if you look at the Western Ghats, you see that as you move from the Kerala to the Gujarat, you will see higher tree endemism in Kerala and Karnataka part of Western Ghats. Similarly, if you look at the animals, the higher animal endemism is in Karnataka, followed by Kerala. So we integrated all this information, developed the decision support system, which can visualize the eco-sensitiveness of a region. These are red ones are ESR1, dark green is ESR2, the light green is ESR3, and blue is ESR4. Now you can also visualize this through the computer or a mobile. This app we have developed, and it's available online at Google Play Store, called as Sayadri. From that, you can choose your state and you can choose your district or your village. It will give the status of the village. Like if you want to find out the Wayanad, you can select those. You can visualize what is the ecologically sensitive region in the or eco-sensitiveness of the region. Okay. Now, understanding this kind of linkages, that earlier our elders thought that if there are forests in the region, they get the water. That's where they started conserving the forest, and they declared it as a sacred forest. And they placed the god in that. Wherever people don't believe the god, they put the daityas in the god. And that's how the sacred forests came into the existence. And even today, that practice continues. To summarize what I said so far, when Mother Earth is covered with a native sarees of a native vegetation, she retains the water for 12 months, and we have the water for 12 months. When we degrade the ecosystem with a vegetation cover less than 30%, she retain the water only for 4 months during the monsoon, and we will have the poverty for the remaining water poverty for the remaining 8 months, as we faced in the Bangalore the last year. So now let us try to understand the sustainability. I learned the concept of sustainability from this lady who goes under the water to collect a bucket full of bivalves. When I asked her why she doesn't collect the second bucket of bivalve, The bivalves are the marine organisms which has a shell. When she sells that one bucket in the market, she earns 350 rupees. And she told me that 350 rupees is sufficient for her to run the family. That's when she comes back the next day for her next day earning. So that's how the renewability is ensured. And because the renewability of the organism is ensured, she has the sustenance of the bivalves in the system. That's how we have to practice the sustainability, not just preparing glossy report about sustainability, but we need to do the practice of the sustainability. Now, this is the slide I started with. Whatever you want to know, you learn from the mother nature. The nature gives us is the best teacher. Like mother at home, the mother nature gives us all the knowledge. So now let us try to understand what is happening in the Bangalore. The main problem of Bangalore was the water crisis happened because of the absence of water urbanism. There is a transition of the porous landscape to the paved landscape, and absence of urban spaces that allow the free flow and percolation of water and air is essential to the survival of a region. And lack of groundwater recharge coupled with the overexploitation led to the water crisis. Now, what is the solution? Creating the ecological force spaces through trees, parks, forests, etc. Now the international airport, if you look at the campus of the international airport, have more of the exotic plants. I think people like Basaraju should take the initiative to see that we have more native species in the region and also rejuvenate the lake that are there in the campus. Now, let us look at the Bangalore, how it has changed. Now the area of the Bangalore is about 740 square kilometer. Way back in the 1800, when Kempegowda was there, during that period, we had 1,452 water bodies are there and 82% green cover is there. And today, we do not have Kempegowda, but we only have Kempegowda statue near the airport. But when you look at the water bodies, we have only 193 water bodies and the green cover is less than 4%. Because of changes in this one, you see the temperature which was 14 to 16 degrees Celsius during the May month when Kempegowda was there. Today it's about 34 to 37 degrees when the Kempegowda is not there, or when he is in a metal form in front of the airport. And when you look at the temperature data of from the Gazetteer, you will be surprised to see that Bangalore also experienced 0 degrees Celsius for a few days in December. Because of that, in places like Palace Orchard, we were growing apples. Today, the temperature has shot up to 34 to 37 degrees Celsius, and even in monsoon, you see higher temperature. And we do not grow apples, but what we grow is the waste and waste people in the city. The city, which was a garden city, in 70s became a garbage city, and today it's a dead city. Now let us try to understand how the lakes are created. The earlier river or stream was passing. Our elders put the bunds at regular interval. That's how they arrested the flowing water into the stagnant water body to meet the irrigation and drinking water requirement in the system. Now we have broadly 3 watersheds in Bangalore and our lakes are interconnected. If we re-establish the interconnectivity among the lakes, we have solved the problem of flooding in the city and also the water crisis in the city. Now, let us try to understand the linkage between the water, groundwater and the lake. My study shows that when the lakes are there, people are getting the water at 80 to 100 feet. When the lake was removed, within 4 or 5 years, the groundwater table went down to 600 feet. Today, after 23 years, people have gone down to 1,800 feet. There is no water in a place like Nagashettihalli. You might ask, if I rejuvenate the lake or restore the lake, will I get the water? Say, for example, Sarki Lake was rejuvenated about 4 years back. Within a year of rejuvenation of Saraki Lake through the diesel tank, the groundwater table went up by 300 feet. And last year, when entire city was facing a severe water crisis and a heat wave, in Saraki Lake, there was enough water in the lake and also surrounding borewells had the groundwater less than 500 feet. Not only that, because of the high moisture content in the system in Saraki Lake, the temperature was at least 2 to 3 degrees lower than the city temperature. That means if we can rejuvenate the lake, what is there in the city today, we have solved the problem of the water in the city. Now let us also try to understand the worth of the lake. When the lake is there, people get fish, fodder, water, and they can grow the crop, etc. And when we did the quantification of the accounting of the goods provided by the ecosystem, it works out to be 10,500 rupees per day per hectare for a reasonably good lake like Rachanhalli, Chakkur, etc. When we pollute the lake, For example, Amruthalli Lake in the same catchment, the worth comes down to 20 rupees per day per hectare. Now, who are the people who depend on the lake? The fishermen, washermen, the farmers, and researchers like me who do the science with the lake. And and who are the one who pollute the lake? The elite section of society who do not know how to manage the waste, the liquid waste or solid waste, who dump it in the lake. That's how the pollution happens. That's how the worth of the lake come down from 10,500 rupees per day per hectare to 20 rupees per day per hectare. Okay. Now, what are the threats to these lakes or wetland? One is unplanned urbanization. When you look at the way the city landscape has changed from 1973 to today, in 1973 there was a 68% green cover in the city when I was a kid. 92 with industrialization, you see the changes happening with the Pune and Koramangala, and some changes have happened in the landscape. 99 2000 with ITBT sector in the outskirts, we see the changes happening in the outskirts. Then the intensification started happening, and then further intensification happened. And today, 2025, about 87% of the landscape is covered with the concrete. Transition from the porous landscape with vegetation and water body to the concrete surface is the root cause of the problem. And that is where we do not have water, we do not have oxygen in the system. So now, when you look at this kind of a growth, over a period of time, there has been 1,078% increase in the concrete area, and we have lost 88% vegetation cover and 79% of the water body. And you see that the region is almost concretized now. So I've been telling the government enough is enough. We need to decongest the city. That is where we need to identify the towns and villages and shift some of our industries to the villages, so that the rural youth who are coming to Bangalore, we can reverse the migration. And local youth, when they get the job in their neighborhood, they can work in the farm on the weekend, while can go to the industry during the weekday. That way the agrarian system also get the boost. 65% of India is agrarian system. We need to boost the thing. For that, the retaining the youth in the villages is a crucial this one. Now you can see that what I said, the concretization, which was 8% in 73, today it's about 87%. Okay. Now let us look at how many trees are there in Bangalore. This is my campus, Indian Social Science campus. We did a mapping of trees using the GPS, Global Positioning System. We linked that with the remote sensing data. Similar exercise was done in a couple of watts. With that knowledge of the ground data, we using remote sensing data for the entire Bangalore. We did a quantification of the trees in Bangalore. We overlaid the boundaries of the ward. From that, we came to know what is the trees in each ward and what is the trees per person. But to summarize, the number of trees in Bangalore is about 1.5 million, or 14,78,000 trees for a population of 95 lakh. That is the stable population. That means for every 7%, one tree is there. See, you might ask how many trees the person requires. We all breathe. When we breathe, we give out a carbon dioxide to an extent of 540 to 980 grams per person per day. The younger people, 980 grams per person per day, whereas the senior people, 540 grams per person per day. Now, 1 hectare of vegetation on the tree take away the carbon to an extent of about 7 to 9 tons per hectare. Now, by that ratio, for every person, there should have been 7 trees. But what we have in Bangalore is 7%, 1 tree. What I am talking is nothing new. It is there in the Bible. Bible talks about nature conservation at least 320 times. Similarly, the Quran talks of imminent war if you pollute the water. That's why when you visit the dargah, you have to wash your feet and finger with a clean mud. That's where a good dargah like Kadapa or Ashmir will have the well. You have to pull out the water from the well and wash your feet and finger before you enter the dargah. They thought that if you practice in dargah, you will practice at home as well as in the neighborhood. Similarly, in our literature, Matsya Purana talks about the linkage between the water, the children, and the trees. If you have a well at home, you have enough water. 10 wells are equal to 1 lake, 10 lakes are equal to 1 reservoir, 10 reservoir is equal to 1 child, and 10 children are equal to 1 tree. That means benefit of having 10 children, you can have it by planting and nurturing a sapling. Now I'll put it other way. When you cut a tree, you are murdering your own 10 children. That's how I write, and that's where my article become quite strong, and it reaches the destination, and people who are irresponsible also sometimes understand the implications. Either consciously or subconsciously they'll understand, and when they face a crisis at home, they come and ask for the solution. Okay. Now this gives the number of water bodies in the Bangalore. We did a mapping in 1973. There were about 546 water bodies, and today about 216 water bodies are there. So now there has been a 79% decline in number of water bodies in the city. The red ones are the one shows where all we lost the water body. These are all the water bodies swallowed by the influential section of the society. Now to bring awareness in the society, and that is advocacy, the decision making, we developed the Bangalore Urban Information System. The portal is available at here. You can access the detail of urbanization and infrastructure, etc., that are there in the thing at this portal. That's how we have taken the science for the effective decision making. Then if you look at the greenhouse gases in the city, you see that the pollution is high in the city where the public transport is weaker. We did a comparative assessment in the 10 cities. We found that cities like Hyderabad and Bangalore have higher pollution from the transportation sector. That's to an extent of 54% in Hyderabad and 46% in Bangalore. Now, when you look at this one, the solution is, if you improve the public transport, then we are bringing down the number of two-wheelers and four-wheelers in the system. Fortunately, the now PMRCL is come up with the metro, so connecting the international airport. I hope that last mile connectivity is provided and we will have a best system soon. And another thing, when you look at this, of course, this is also true with the airport. You see that this is an architecture which is supposed to be for temperate climate or the cold climate. People have copied and they put it in a tropical climate like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, etc. Now the implication of having a glass facade building in the region like Bangalore, Hyderabad, etc., we did an assessment in 3,000 household. We found that wherever the normal buildings are there, as per the Vastu principle or the traditional building, the electricity consumption per person per year is a range from 700 to 1,700 units per person per year. Whereas in the glass facade building, it shoots up to 14,000 to 70,000 units or kilowatt per person per year. That means 10 times higher electricity consumption because of the copy-paste culture of our architects and engineers who do not understand what kind of the building has to be there in a Bangalore to provide the required thermal comfort. But now what they have done with this kind of architecture, they have made these buildings the hot air oven. If you go to Infosys campus, there is a Titanic building is there, which was built based on the similar glass facade. You go there and see that the building is not being used because Infosys understood the implication of having a glass facade in terms of electricity consumption. To summarize what I said so far, with the unplanned urbanization, we have lost the vegetation 88% and water bodies 79%, and we have enhanced the pollutant in the system, and because of that we are contributing to the warming of the earth. With the warming of the earth, we see that the changes in climate, that's where we are facing a high intensity rainfall, increase in temperature, etc., and increased instances of COVID, chikungunya, etc. The city has the distinction of losing one person because of the COVID in the last week. So now let us try to understand how the temperature is changing. The city temperature, which was 21 degrees in 90s, became a 24 degrees in 2000 or 28 degrees in the 2010. Today is about 38 degrees. From the city center, when you move in a direction, you will see wherever water bodies are there, wherever open green spaces are there, temperature is at least 2 degrees lower. Even in my campus, Indian Social Sciences campus, because of the good vegetation cover of 54%, we have the temperature 2 degrees lower. Because of that good environment, we can do the good science. That's how it helped the system. Now the removal of water bodies and loss of interconnectivity, we have the flooding in the system. One end we have flood, and other side we have the drought in the system. So now the loss of interconnectivity among the lake is been identified as one of the causal factor. Now you can see that interconnectivity among the water bodies are lost with a fragmented drain system. Every place you see the influential fellow is sitting on the drain. So you go to RR Nagar, there is one fellow claim himself as Sarathi sitting on the drain. So that we have such people who are blocking the drains, and because of that, they have made the system the vulnerable. RR Nagar faces the flooding because of that irresponsible behavior by the politician and other people in the system. So now how the lake is being handled, people use the lake for dumping the solid waste. They encroach the lake, and you will see the lake view apartments come, and we discharge the sewage into the lake, and those who are away, they send it through the tankers. The lake, when it is clean, it looks like this. When the lake is contaminated with untreated sewage and industrial effluent getting in, you will see the profuse growth of the invasive species in the system. When the lake is like this, as the water moves from the inlet to the outlet, the treatment happens as it's evident here. You see at the inlet, some sewage is entering, the dissolved oxygen is 0, but at outlet, dissolved oxygen is as high as 14. So that shows that the treatment is happening in the system. When the water body is covered with a macrophyte, you see that the lake has the function has degraded. You say evident from the lower dissolved oxygen at the outlet and higher biochemical oxygen demand. And the two cases which our lakes have demonstrated to the entire globe about the pollution is the frothing of the lake and the fire in the lake. Frothing shows that phosphorus is getting into the lake through our detergent or untreated sewage, while the fire shows the hydrocarbon is getting into the system because of the industrial effluent getting into the system. What is the solution for this? We should have treated the sewage, but instead of that, the bureaucracy in the city came up with a barricade. That's how I had written an article at that time saying that this will solve the frothing only for 4 days. Their worry is that froth was coming to the road, and because of that, it made international headlines. So now they wanted to arrest that international headline. They thought that barricade will solve the problem, but as I predicted, the froth crossed over in 4 days, showing that they have wasted 2 crores in the process. Of course, when they spend 2 crores, naturally the 40% they would have pocketed. Okay, so now the other implication of the lake getting the contaminated water is that people use that water for growing the vegetables. In the Vartur and Belandur, Ramgonnalli, Siddhapura, etc., people grow the spinach, then the pudina, then radish, etc. And also the fish in the lake is being come to the Bangalore market. When we collected the fish sample and also the milk sample as well as the vegetable sample from this region, we found heavy metal in our food. The increased heavy metal in our food is crippling our system in the form of the cancer and kidney failure. The kidney failure, for example, which was 1 in 1 lakh about 12 years back, today is 1 in the 5,000. That's where we have a dialysis unit in every ward because of the contaminated food. To contaminated food, we have it because we are growing the vegetables and other food through the contaminated water. That's what we are doing now. Partially treated water is being sent to the Kolar without removing the heavy metal, and Kolar is known for growing vegetables. That vegetable comes to the Bangalore market. That means more and more people will get crippled with the kidney failure, etc. Okay, so now we proposed the rejuvenation of the lake. I gave the blueprint which went to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court accepted the blueprint and penalized the government of Karnataka 500 crores. Now that money is kept aside in the escrow account which is being used for rejuvenating the lake. One of the process in the rejuvenation is you need to decontaminate the lake by removing the silt and also arrest the contaminant entering the lake. That is where the treatment plants have come in that region, and the decontamination of the lake is done by the desilting. And when we did a quantification of the silt accumulated in this one, it amounts to about the 11 million cubic meter this one. And we found that Vartur Lake, which is the downstream of Belandur Lake, didn't have any contaminant. Then we gave that silt to the farmers in the vicinity. I'm in the committee, and every month I visit the Belandur and Vartur Lake, when the rejuvenation is in progress. And when I visited the region, the farmers in the region, the demonstrated their high yield the vegetables. They have grown this kind of vegetables, and each farmer, 400 acres land, we had given this soil from the Vartur Lake, which had high nutrient like N and P, etc. And because of high nutrient, they didn't use the fertilizer. And because the silt is rich in nutrient, they got the bumper crop. They grow this vegetable thrice a year, in 3 seasons. That means you can imagine every season they are getting additional benefit of 1,50,000 rupees per acre. You can imagine 1,50,000 into 3 times is 4,50,000 into 400. The worth of the silt what we have given to the farmers. That is what we need to do. When we do the lake rejuvenation, the silt in the lake, if we can take it and give it to the farmers in the vicinity, our agricultural land also become productive, and we don't have to use synthetic fertilizer, etc. We can also reduce the pollution happening in the system. Now, we have also developed the Bangalore Lake Information System, which is available online. And we have put the water qualities of all the lakes in Bangalore. We have monitored 193 lakes out of 216 lakes. The Sinsi and Asulva, the student who worked on that, and the water quality, microalgae, zooplankton, and fish details are also for each lake we have provided, and also the worth of the ecosystem we have given. What is the worth you can find out, and more importantly, we have also given the details about encroachment. How much lake is being encroached or Rajakalav is encroached in the region. So we assume that with this, people become more and more sensible and will prevent the encroachment. At the same time, decision making become wise. Okay, now I am in the last part of my talk. What we have contributed to the society. One is I have given the technology, the wastewater treatment based on the nature-based solution, which is working successfully at Jakkur Lake. Then the rainwater harvesting is the other one through the creation of the lake, etc., and creating a mini forest. And success model we have demonstrated. And the next, the most, the good weapon is the sensitizing the youth. When youth are given the knowledge of the environment, they become sensible. When they become sensible, they will be responsible. Our agenda is to have more and more sensible youth in our system through the environmental knowledge, which will contribute to the sustainable development. That means that sensible youth will not use a plastic. They know how to manage their ecosystem in the vicinity, etc. Now, this is what we did at Jakkur Lake way back in 2010. My study in 2005 shows Jakkur Lake and surrounding there were 25 wells are there. The water sample assessment shows that there are nitrate in the water in the lake as well as in the borewell samples. Then we pushed the government to rejuvenate the lake because nitrate is a carcinogen which introduces cancer. When the government took up the rejuvenation, I was put in the committee as a member and Yellappa Reddy was the chairman. But the money given was not sufficient to have the treatment at tertiary level. As you all know, there are 3 levels of treatment. Primary level will remove the large particles. Secondary treatment will remove the chemical ion. Tertiary treatment is required to remove the nutrient. Now, the nitrate is a problem of nutrient. To remove the nutrient, I need to have a tertiary treatment. But money given for rejuvenation of the lake by the government was not sufficient. At the time, I convinced the committee to have the nature-based solution. I integrated the constructed wetland and algal pond along with the secondary treatment plant. Now, for the last 12 years, my students have monitored this lake and we have put this report online. Now, today there are 300 wells surrounding the lake, and also when you collect the sample from the bore wells in the vicinity, 300 bore wells on the Jakkur Lake, you do not see the nitrate in the system. That means we have solved the problem of nutrient or the water contamination that is getting into the system. And I have satisfaction because of my science, 300 well users are getting the clean water in the region. And this is the model to be replicated in all the locations in the region, in Bangalore. Okay. Now, creating the water body is another option. This is the water body I have created in IISc campus in 2008. This gives as a lab for my students to do the biofuel study. Not only students are happy, I also have the otter in the campus. If you look at the biodiversity of the lake, you see there are enough algae. You can see the lake in the region in 2005 and then how it looks from 2010 onward. And this gives the algae, zooplankton and fish and varieties of birds in the region. That means if you facilitate the system with a good ecosystem, naturally the ecosystem will provide the biodiversity and the resources in the system. That is what is evident from this experiment. And this model is replicated in a drier district for example, Mudbidre was facing a severe water crisis in 2013 and 14. When I was traveling in the region in 2016, the local saint met me and asked me about the solution. When I suggested to desilt the lake in the region, 32 lakes are there in Mudbidre, he did the desilting of 2 lakes. And also, apart from that, based on our the proposal, he created a water body in his campus. The last year, when the entire Karnataka faced a severe water crisis, the Mudbidre didn't face water crisis because of the desilting of the lake, 2 lakes by this saint. And because he did it, remaining 30 lakes were desilted by the local people. And because of the desilting, recharging of the groundwater was happening. Because of that, there was no water crisis in the Mudbidre last year. And this model, and when I look at it, the success is because of the youth and the Alva's Engineering College and Science College students are actively involved, and also Alva's CEO was also actively involved in this. And when we gave a proposal to Alva, they also created a water body and they took up the native species planting in this one. Now, when I visit that campus the next year, you see there is a greenery and abundant water and a smile on our face. Now, so now the solution for water crisis in Bangalore is, see, Bangalore receives the rainfall of 700 to 850 millimeter every year. If you catch rainwater through and retain it in the lake, you will have 15 TMC of water. That means Bangalore requires 18 TMC. 70% of the water required for Bangalorean is available in the form of rainwater. The best option is to rejuvenate the 216 lake and retain the rainwater in the lake so that groundwater recharge happens with the clean water. Then if you are using 18 TMC, we are also generating 18 TMC of wastewater. By having the nature-based solution, we can have a 16 TMC of treated water. But that means in a city where the water demand is 18 TMC, we have 15 TMC because of rainwater the harvesting and 16 TMC because of wastewater treatment. You will have total 31 TMC. This is the sustainable model. This is a surplus situation. For this to happen, I have a 5R formula. First R is a responsible citizen. That is where environmental education plays a role. When people are responsible, we will have the people will allow the rejuvenation of the lake so that I can retain the rainwater. They allow the reuse and recycle of the wastewater. So with that, we will have the water throughout the year in every home in Bangalore. So now, if you come to my campus, you will see this climber. This is a Western Ghat climber. When I was a student, I got this seat to the Bangalore. There were 14 seats. Out of 14 seats, 7 seats I have kept in my lab. And remaining 7 I planted in 7 locations. Out of 7 locations, in only 1 location it has survived. That is next to the building where I worked for the last 2 decades. That means even the plant know who will take care. Because every day when I was coming out of the building, I used to talk to the plant, and that's how it has grown in size and covered the at least 2-hectare canopy in the thing. And in front of this building, we created a mini forest in 2 hectares area. Today when you visit the region, you get a feel of the rainforest. Not only that, it has given a habitat for the wild animals like slender lories and varieties of snakes, etc. And groundwater in this region of 2 hectares, we planted a 49 native species. 500 saplings were planted way back in 90s when I was a student. And today you get a feel of the rainforest. And more importantly, if you look at the temperature in the region is 2 degrees lower, and groundwater, which was 150 feet earlier in 90s, today I have the water at 10 feet. That means by having a mini forest in each ward, we can also allow the groundwater recharge and enhance the recreation facility in the each ward. That's what every citizen has to do it. So now this is what we communicate to the wider section of society through our Know Your Ecosystem program. We have conducted a 555 program over the last 200 decades in various schools. The lakhs of students have benefited, and we have traveled to the various part of the country and rural area. Apart from that, we offer a course on environmental management. The last 22 years, we have conducted a course for the working professional, working in industries and universities, etc. About 30 to 40 people register for the course, and that's how we do the capacity building at school level as well as at the much higher level. That's where we are sensitizing the youth of Bangalore and in India. So, and we also conduct a symposium, popularly known as Lake Symposium. It's an international event. We have conducted 14 events. The uniqueness of the event is even though the audience is 1,000, 30% are the school student and college student. They do a simple experiment like carbon sequestration or the lake monitoring. They come and do the presentation. When they attend the conference for 3 days, they get the knowledge from the experienced people like me. And the second thing, when they do the presentation, the concluding day, their confidence level goes up. The students who have taken part in this kind of event today, they have become the professors at the institution like IIT, IISr, etc. So now these are if you go to the YouTube and give a search YouTube cover TVRAMACHANDRA, all my talks are available. This is my portal where all my research material is available online. So you can write to me. I do not use a mobile. And these are the portal where my publications are available. You can access this one for more details. The agenda of my science is to sow the seeds of knowledge in this young brain. And when they have the adequate knowledge, they become sensible and responsible, and they become an asset to the nation. Giving the asset to our nation is our agenda of our science. So, and we have communicated to the wider section through the various, this one you would see in YouTube, etc. So this is one of the discussion that has happened in the podcast, which become quite popular. Agenda of our science is to sensitize the youth. When they do the good science, there is a smile on everybody's face. Thank you very much for listening. I was given 1 hour time. Now it is 12 o'clock. I'm concluding my talk. Thank you very much.